Alright, I've been playing Titanic A Space Between. I want to thank them for reaching out and sending over a review code. This game is out now on Quest via AppLab, and PCVR and PSVR releases are coming out later. I want to first talk about the game's story and premise, my thoughts on finishing the game with my critiques, and a side-by-side visual comparison as the game makes an effort on graphics. I will leave out big spoilers and talk about the game at a surface level. Keep in mind, this game is developed by a two-person team. At times it does show. The game starts off slow but picks up pace, and you begin to uncover the lore, which is interesting once you understand what's going on. The game does have an explore mode for those who want to skip the horror game and just enjoy being on the Titanic and enjoy the vista, but it's slated to come soon after release. Though let's start off with the game first. So Titanic A Space Between, which is a time travel horror adventure where you get sent back to the RMS Titanic. As you play through the game, you unravel a time travel mystery and encounter non-humanoid creatures that are out to get you. As a time traveler, you are investigating the disappearance of a woman named Diana in the RMS Titanic. The point of time you travel to the ship is during the point where it hits the iceberg and the ship begins to submerge, which adds another level of immersion and tension as you make your way to the objectives in the game. There are two characters in the game, and you move back and forth between Hendrik and Diana. One character has a gun scanner tool and the other has a wrist camera that takes pictures. You have to solve puzzles, find objects, and avoid getting swallowed by the water. You are accompanied by someone on the comms, so you're not fully alone, and they help guide you and give a background to the lore of the game. Having played the game from start to finish, it offers something different and unique to the storefront. Without a review code sent, I wouldn't have tried this game, as horror games in VR scare the crap out of me, but I stuck with it. Once again, this game is made by two devs and it shows, but the game has promise. This game is on AppLab and it notes that the game isn't complete and is missing some features. But I'll talk about what I've played so far. First off, booting the game and immediately playing, the jankiness is very evident. Grabbing and holding certain objects is a struggle. Your hands often go through the walls, the floor, and it's hard just grabbing things. I was about to put the game down, but being set during the timeline of the Titanic sets it apart from others in the genre. Early on, there are game-breaking sequences that if you don't run or do certain actions, do things too early, glitch through the map, lose a key item that will make you break the game and have to restart from your last checkpoint. But the story is made up of 11 different chapters with constant saves, so you don't have to pull your hair out. During the first 20 to 30 minutes, the game is really rough, with horrible pacing as you know nothing of the story. But once you get over that hump, the use of the environment and your flashlight that you have to recharge with batteries while having the fear of encountering demonic creatures adds to the tension. As with entering dark areas of the game, you don't know where your next encounter will be. In horror games, movies, it has the same idea of using your flashlight to limit your view to a certain distance and coverage. This game follows that tradition as well. I slowly began to like the game and look forward to what more it offered. Certain sections play into the cat and mouse, where you have to collect and gather objects to move further in the story. Secondly, the horror factor is there, and the game doesn't just rely on jump scares. It uses space and lighting to make you tense. It uses space and lighting to create tension. Whether that's going inside pitch black rooms, vents, or down the corridor, it's accompanied with music that gives you a head up if something is nearby or approaching. Talking about sound, another critique of mine is sound is either a hit or miss. The horror genre is big on sound effects to create an uneasy feeling, but at times there are tracks that just don't fit the game or blast too loud to the point where you can't hear anything or the dialogue. And at times it does have soundtracks that genuinely give you goosebumps. And I'm not gonna lie, if I wasn't given a review code, I wouldn't have sticked around long enough and probably refunded. This game is far from perfect, and releasing on AppLab makes the most sense. It took me around 2.5 hours to complete the game, as I was procrastinating certain parts as I was being a little scaredy cat. For the price, it's not necessarily the best value, but certainly memorable, being able to experience the events of the Titanic sinking. It combines fiction with non-fiction, and as you get deeper into the game, it gets intriguing to uncover the truths of the mysteries you are solving. The change of pace is welcome from playing the usual adventure, FPS, and rhythm fitness games. So now let's talk about the graphics and how it runs on both headsets. A key selling point to Titanic: A Space Between, that it delivers top-of-the-line graphics. On Quest 2 and Quest 3, they are very similar, and the only real noticeable difference is resolution, with Quest 3 getting the automatic boost with having dynamic resolution. Both games run at a set 72Hz. With Quest 3, aliasing is improved, running at a slightly higher resolution automatically, but there isn't a Quest 3 upgrade yet for this game, as it's primarily developed with Quest 2 in mind. The Quest 3 upgrade is slated to come soon after the initial release of the game. One noticeable difference with both headsets is that slight hiccups occur more on Quest 2 than 3 loading certain areas. With the graphics, it utilizes lighting and water systems that allow it to create visual depth and has a sense of atmosphere. In horror games, lighting is usually one of the most important factors to make things even creepier. Textures in the game appear with minor reflections with added gloss, blur effects to make it look like it's being reflected, similar to Red Matter 2. It's not on the level of attention to detail as that game, but it does a good enough job convincing your eyeballs. The other impressive trait is that the game tries to simulate water flow, as the game is set during the sinking of the Titanic and you're in the lower part of the ship going through corridors while having the water rise is really cool to experience in VR. It adds to the tension and puts into perspective the horror the people of the Titanic encountered. Where on Quest, the games that tried to emulate water end up looking like just a reflective tarp. It maps out if the water were to travel down the hallway, splashing, emulating like if it was influenced by real physics. It isn't breathtaking, but for standalone, it's impressive, especially for Quest 2, with its limited hardware. Some other critiques that I do have are, though since the game is on AppLab, you do come across oddities, and textures have weird clipping or missing textures in certain areas of the game. Booting up the game, although the ship is cramped in the lower section, the sense of scale is a little bit off. The world appears smaller relative to the perspective of the player. And finally, is Titanic: A Space Between worth it? No, not really, as the game right now is very much a work in progress, with worthwhile ideas that need work. I can see this game becoming worth it down the line, but I'm judging what it currently offers. The premise to have a VR horror game set during the timeline of the Titanic is clever, but currently it's a rough draft to the final product. The game starts out fast, throwing you in the mix without much explanation. Character dialogue gets overshadowed by the game's soundtrack to the point where you can't hear anything. Settings in the game to lower down the music don't work. Game-breaking bugs stop you from progressing. Sometimes the monsters are invisible or appear randomly in front of your face without warning. You fall through the map because you climbed wrong. This game is far from becoming a finished project, but it has the right ideas. Where the game kind of felt like a chore to play at the start, once you get deeper in the game, you start connecting the dots as you unravel the mysteries. Everything starts to make sense as it ties into the game's title. I find it quite enjoyable to play through, but it has a lot of jankiness. It's up to you if spending $20 for a Titanic horror game is worth it. It's on the shorter side, and I did see that the game is marketed to be 5 to 6 hours long, although I completed it in 2 hours and a half. So it's noticeably shorter than advertised, with taking my time in my playthrough. For being the only true Titanic on standalone, I'm surprised it took this long for it to be available on the platform. And it's certainly not for everyone. And yeah, that's pretty much it with my current thoughts and review of the game. If you liked the video, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe for more, and yeah, until the next video.